right, you all set, Mr. Van Beek? Wonderful. Well, I'm going to call the June 2, 2021 regular meeting of the Holland City Council to order. Welcome, everyone, those of you who are here who came out on this lovely evening, and those of you who may be watching at home. For those of you who are here, just some reminders in regard to the COVID protocols that are currently in place, that ever-changing landscape. We are currently in a place where we are still doing social distancing here. We still have capacity limits here inside the building, but if you are fully vaccinated, which means 2 weeks out from either your second dose of the 2-dose ones or a single dose of the Johnson & Johnson, you are not required to wear a mask. And we appreciate folks complying with all of those things. And having said that, I'm just going to delay a little bit here and chat while Mr. Bird comes up to his seat so he's ready for the roll call because he's just joined us. Evening, Quincy. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Bird.
Present.
Peters.
Here.
Garcia.
Here.
Trethewey. Arnshorst. Here. Corbin. Hoekstra.
Here.
Raymond. Here. Mayor Box.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We're going to start this evening's meeting as we have for many years, first with an opening prayer this evening by Councilmember Garcia, immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We would ask you to join us if you would like. Mr. Garcia.
Heavenly Father, we're just thankful for this opportunity to be able to join together as we do most Wednesdays to conduct the city's business. And we ask that you would grace us with wisdom, discernment, and ability just to engage with the multiple aspects of every decision that we have to make. Lord God, and tonight with some of the public comments that we have as well, to have ears that are inclined to listen. And also to take that into consideration as we weigh the future plans of the city. I say you bless this time. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Raul. The next item on our agenda are our consent agenda items. These are items that are considered to be fairly routine and have previously been reviewed by council as part of our weekly council packets. And they'll be enacted in one motion unless a member of the audience or a member of the council asks that an item be removed from the consent agenda and placed upon the regular agenda. And if that happens, it'll be placed in its regular order on the agenda. Kathy, would you please review the consent agenda for us?
4A, absence excused, council members Trethewey and Corbin. 4B, approval of minutes, May 19th, 2021 regular meeting. 4D, written petitions and communications, Industrial Development District request, MG 88 Holland Cold Storage LLC, 1870 Transport Lane. 4E, City Clerk, Great Lakes Fireworks Display request, June 12th, 2021. 4F, Treasurer, place delinquent ordinance violation invoices on summer 2021 property tax bills, adopt resolution. 4G, Finance, April financial reports. 4H, Management and Administrative Services, revocable license agreement, projecting sign, 39 East 8th Street.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. Is there a member of the public who would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed upon the regular agenda? Seeing none. Any member of council that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed upon the regular agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion in regard to the consent agenda.
So moved.
Was that moved to accept? And thank you. Is there a second? Support?
Support.
Moved by Bird, support by Arnshorst. Any discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
point of clarity, I have on our agendas that 4C was deleted. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that what you read too?
I did not read that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sometimes I hear things that aren't really there. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Byrd,
Yes.
Peters, Garcia,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Next item, item number 5, is public comment. At every one of our council meetings, as well as our board, committee, and commission meetings, we provide the opportunity for public comment. This is a time where members of the public can address council or our various boards and committees. It's part of the Open Meetings Act in the state of Michigan. In our regular meetings, we provide 5 minutes for any member of the public to speak to council. In our study sessions, we provide 3 minutes for that. Tonight, you'll have 5. Any member of the public can come up and communicate to council. Please note that this is one-way communication from the public to council. We do not answer questions during this time or engage in discussion, and we would ask that you address council. If you would like to come up, we just ask that you state your name and address for the record, and also note that there are 3 lights on the dais in front of me. There's a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. The green light means you're doing well on time. The yellow light means you have 1 minute left, and the red light means your time has expired, and we are strict about that, and so we would ask that you please adhere to those time constraints. Now, having said that, is there anyone who would like to address council at this time? Yes, please come forward. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Ann Hiskis, and I live at 2418 Ruth Avenue, Holland. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. If a neighbor you trusted and respected phoned you in the middle of the night to say they saw flames coming out of a window of her house, what would you do? I'm sorry, I have a colleague who would like to pass out a handout to you that will accompany our...
He can give those right to the city manager, and he'll make sure that we get the
Okay.
copies of those. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Would you please give those to the city manager?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's all right. He'll make sure that we get them.
Okay, thank you. They're sort of visual aids as well. So if a neighbor you trusted and respected phoned you in the middle of the night to say that they saw flames coming out of a window of your house, what would you do? You would acknowledge the reality of the situation. You wouldn't go back to sleep and wait for the morning to do something. You would act immediately. You know that a small fire unattended will grow into a larger fire. Even though your house will be damaged, the sooner you act, the greater your chances of minimizing the losses. If you have children sleeping in different rooms of the house and different floors, it's too late to start planning now to exit the house safely in case of a fire. The time to plan for an emergency is before it becomes an emergency. And my visual aid is this, a house on fire. In the particular case shown in this photo, firefighters were able to save the 2 dogs who lived in this house. A delay of 10 minutes in the arrival of the firefighters would have meant a certain doom for those dogs. What we are facing now with climate change is often compared to the situation of a burning house. Fortunately, we have more than 10 minutes, and we have more than 10 years to act in order to reduce the damage to our planet from greenhouse gases. But the urgency is still there. Every year makes a difference. To prevent warming beyond 1.5 degrees centigrade, often identified as an important tipping point, we need to reduce emissions by 7.6% every year from this year to 2030. If we had started seriously fighting climate change 10 years ago, we would have needed to reduce emissions only by 3.3% a year. Every year we fail to act, it becomes more difficult and more costly to reduce emissions to avoid the tipping point. And just think of this. The carbon dioxide we released in the atmosphere today will still be there 1,000 years from now. adding to that blanket of greenhouse gases that is slowly warming our planet. Wouldn't it be better to ensure that that carbon dioxide is never emitted in the first place? In a recent poll of the Holland City Council members, you acknowledged the importance of addressing climate change. Updating the community energy plan was identified as a council priority, and the mayor appointed a strategic development team. This is great. This is wonderful. But we need a sense of urgency. As our friendly and respected neighbors, the climate scientists and engineers indicate, the timeline for reducing carbon emissions is everything. We need to reduce carbon emissions by 50% each of the next 3 decades to avoid that predicted tipping point. Our house is on fire. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hiskus. Yes, sir, please come forward. And would you please state your name and address for the
Good
record?
evening. My name is Richard Hiskus from 2418 Ruth. It's an honor to be able to comment tonight. These people say the words climate change, unlike the community energy plan that does not. The Pope and other people of faith, millions of people of all faiths, 191 countries who participate in the Paris Accords, including, once again, I'm delighted to say, the United States, who never really left, hundreds of scientific societies, 75% of lakeshore area voters, more than 1,400 companies with science-based target initiatives, including Ford, GM, Steelcase, Kraft Heinz. More than 13,000 scientists, young people like Shanley, old people like me, the U.S. military, the World Food Program. All these people, all these organizations say the words climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hiskus. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Yes, please come forward. State your name and address for the record, if you would.
Hi, my name is Shanley Poole, and I live at 103 Michigan Avenue. It's great to see you all again this week, and great to see your full faces this time. I, first of all, want to thank you again. I think sometimes I skip over that, and I don't want to take that for granted. So thank you for your time once again this week and the service that you give to Holland. I also wanted to zoom out a little bit and look not just at Holland, but some of the big pieces of climate change and climate crisis news that have been in headlines in the past 2 weeks or so. Some of these are ones that inspire hope in me, while others leave me nervous for the environment that my generation, and more importantly, generations even after mine, will be left to inherit. So I'll start off with some of the bad news. A lot of the trends this week were reporting on the record-hitting temperatures, the high trends of temperatures. BBC reported the world at risk of hitting temperature limit soon, something Ann Hiskus was just discussing. CNN talked of it's getting more and more likely the world will reach a climate tipping point in the next 5 years. CBS wrote of NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, reporting a, quote, new normal climate report being anything but normal. And then the Wall Street Journal wrote of that tough, clean energy transition that's ahead for big oil, an intimidating change that I know is on the hearts and minds of many, a change that will require innovative and creative solutions. But in other articles, I caught glimpses of how we might be able to curb the Titanic, so to speak, that is climate change before we hit the iceberg, to borrow a metaphor that my friend Peter always uses. The New York Times reported of the California coast opening to wind farms, the strong potential there. CBS wrote of climate change makers fighting for environmental justice in Kentucky and South Carolina. And NPR featured what's happening on Wall Street recently, where a tiny hedge fund scored a historic win against ExxonMobil over the future of oil. And CBS wrote of how a potential new form of carbon storage might offer hope, not just for the climate, but also cash and opportunities for farmers. Our nation and our global society is talking about climate change, about this climate crisis. These headlines, these reports, these conversations, they spark change. So I hope that you will dare to say the words, to start conversations about climate change, to say the words climate crisis with me in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Poole. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Yes, please come forward. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Brian Bodenbender, and I live at 400 2nd Avenue in Holland Township. I chair the Department of Geological and Environmental Sciences at Hope College. I want to talk about the global impacts of climate change and why they're relevant to the decisions that we make here in Holland. Climate change itself has direct effects throughout the globe, including in the U.S. It also has indirect effects that impact us, including increasing the ranges of parasites and the geographic spread of diseases. I'll talk just really about the direct effects here in my comments. One direct effect of climate change is more severe weather. We can understand this by thinking about one simple scientific fact, which is on the display sheet that will come around. This fact is that hot air can hold more water than cold air. Moisture moves around our planet as water vapor in the air. If the climate warms, on average, our air will carry more water. We all know that water doesn't always stay in the air, but instead falls as rain, snow, and hail. So a warmer climate produces the potential for more severe weather everywhere. We've seen this in different parts of the U.S. with record floods in New England and Texas over the last several years. Climate change also changes weather patterns. This can lead to weather that is both different than what we've seen in the past and more variable. So we may not only get more intense rain episodes, but also more patchy rain and drought. We may get higher average temperatures, but with more extreme occasional cold snaps. This has the potential to damage local agriculture. Yet another effect of climate change is rising sea level, both because melting glaciers add more water to the oceans and because water expands when it gets warmer, causing sea level to rise even without adding new water to the oceans. This won't affect us directly here in the Great Lakes, but it will affect coastal cities in the U.S. and all around the world. Sea level rise is expected to displace between 1 and 7 million people in the United States and hundreds of millions of people worldwide by the end of this century, which is now less than 80 years away. These displaced people aren't just people, but they also represent economic investments in homes, businesses, and infrastructure. These people are also part of the society we live in. Instability in our society is costly in money, time, and human suffering. So to the extent that we in Holland contribute to and benefit from being part of a larger economic and political system, it's in our own interest to prevent disruptions when we're able to help avoid them. Holland can do a lot to reduce our contributions to climate change. As city council members, you are in a position to make decisions that can move the needle not just in your own homes with your own families, but for the city as a whole. When you receive the recommendations of the study group reviewing our community energy plan, I urge you to undertake bold leadership aimed at reducing our climate impacts in our homes, perhaps by accelerating home energy retrofits, in our transportation infrastructure, perhaps by increasing electric vehicle recharging stations and continuing to establish dedicated bike lanes, and in planning our future energy generation, where renewable energy is already cheaper than fossil fuels, and investment in renewable energy is likely to increasingly outperform fossil fuels over the coming decades. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodenbender. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Yes, please come forward. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Peter Bogart, live at 235 North Lindy Street in Holland Charter Township. So, Mr. Mayor and members of council, thank you for the opportunity to address council. And thank you for maintaining this critical avenue of public comment. Professor Bodenbender highlighted the overarching and global dynamics of climate change. It's now clear that the negative consequences of global climate change are being felt and that the impacts will only worsen over time. Still, it's hard to be too alarmed about all that, what's happening in distant places. Polar bears may be iconic, but they're not a problem for me and my neighborhood. Rising sea levels are a serious problem, but not for me in West Michigan. Nevertheless, we need to respond because the consequences of changing climate are already being felt in West Michigan. In 2019, the Environmental Law and Policy Center collated the results of some 300 plus climate-related studies in the Great Lakes region in their report titled An Assessment of the Impacts of Climate Change on the Great Lakes. The report documents the changes we experience and the importance of taking action now. So what are the changes for us? Number one, warmer air temperatures. The Great Lakes Basin mean temperature has increased by 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit since 1960. And by the end of this century, will increase again by somewhere between 2.7 and 7.2 degrees Fahrenheit. We can expect heavier precipitation and flooding. Warmer air holds more moisture, leading to heavier rain events. We expect wetter winters and springs, while summer precipitation should decrease by 5 to 15% for most of our Great Lakes states by the year 2100. We expect more extreme weather. The number of extremely warm days, that is above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, will increase by anywhere from 17 to 60 days. The number of winter days below 32 degrees Fahrenheit are going to decrease. Agriculture, irrigation, and decreased crop yields are going to be one of the consequences. Heavier spring rains, which lead to delayed planting, leads to more need for increased reliance on irrigation, and the summer heat stress will combine to lower crop yields by 10 to 30%. Soybean and maize production will likely move northward. For Ottawa County, which is already the second leading ag county in Michigan, that's a significant risk. Expect urban issues. Heat waves and summer air pollution events will increase the risk of heat-related illnesses, respiratory diseases, and death. More frequent 6-inch rains will stress municipal infrastructure. Water quality and air consumption will be impacted. Algal blooms will likely become more frequent in the future as higher temperatures and heavy precipitation mix heavy nutrient loads with warmer waters. Heavier rain events will stress water treatment facilities. Lake ecology is going to be impacted. Bacterial loads will increase as the winter warms earlier in the spring. The warming waters will advantage the introduction of new species of pathogenic bacteria, viruses, protozoa, and non-native species, thereby displacing local native species. There's going to be impact on wildlife. Habitat conditions, soil moisture, and other conditions will shift, thereby driving some wildlife species northward and others westward. Diseases like botulism will increase, spreading more disease and killing more birds that consume fish. Shipping, power generation, and shorelines are being impacted. Fluctuating lake levels will greatly affect the ability of ships to safely navigate shallow portions of the Great Lakes channels and harbors. Both lower lake levels and higher water temperatures pose technical challenges for power generation. Changing lake levels affect marinas, docks, and shoreline homes and other buildings. You'll notice that some of these impacts are particularly in air temperature, present a range of outcomes based on the greenhouse gases already in the atmosphere. The globe is committed to the lower range. The upper range depends on how much we do or don't do to reduce.
Mr. Mayor, that's 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Bogart. Sorry, your time has expired. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Yes, please come forward. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
Good evening. My name is Don Triesenberg, and I live at 29 East 6th Street. Council members, thank you for all the work you do on behalf of our community. Brian and Peter just reported the bad news from climate science. I get to offer the good news. The good news is this. If we act now with urgency to keep the Earth warming now at 1 degree under 2 degrees, to keep the CO2 in the atmosphere now at 420 parts per million, below 450 parts per million, if we do that, and we can, we will have a good chance, defined by the scientists as a 66% chance to avert the worst of what Peter and Brian were telling you. In the handout, there's a diagram of a soon-to-overflow bathtub, a not too subtle metaphor for the message I want to give to you. The tub represents our Earth's atmosphere. The water in the tub represents the CO2 in the atmosphere, and the top of the tub, the overflow point, represents 2 degrees warming, 450 parts per million CO2, our 66% chance. The blue water in this picture signifies the time before fossil fuels. Work was done by muscle power, human and animal. Food was our fuel, our exhaust was the CO2 we exhaled. Plants inhaled what we exhaled. So there was no net addition of carbon dioxide in the air. And the Earth's temperature was stable for more than 10,000 years. The orange water in this picture represents our discovery 150 years ago that burning fossil fuels enables us to get a lot more work done. Wealth, literacy, life expectancy shot up around the world. Poverty, infant mortality plummeted. The world is a better place. But alas, burning fossil fuels also turned on a new and bigger spigot with no new drain in the bathtub. Now the water level is rising. The CO2 in the atmosphere is rising, and if the tub were to overflow, it would be a disaster. If you're with me so far, here's the urgency. Half of all the fossil fuel that has ever been burned in this world was burned in the last 30 years. We are doubling the amount of fossil fuel CO2 in our atmosphere every 30 years. There's no room in the tub to double it again. The Community Energy Plan has another 30 years to go. The math is clear and the physics doesn't care about your politics. To keep the water in the tub, you must now turn the fossil fuel spigot down 50% every decade. The last page in your handout is a cute cartoon of the Titanic approaching the iceberg. It's there to remind you that revising the CEP was your goal for 2020 and then again for 2021. The SDT has been meeting for 9 months, and maybe 3 months from now they'll have a report for you. And if the past is prologue, you'll then form task forces to make more plans. Don't do that, please. It's urgent. You're our elected leaders. You are empowered to act. Do something. Make a motion. Set a limit. Show your leadership. Do your job. We're counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Triesenberg. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Next item on the agenda, special presentations and recognitions from the mayor or council or city manager. And we actually have a state representative and a state senator here this evening to do a very special tribute for our officers of the year. I would ask that State Representative Brad Slaw and State Senator Roger Victory please come forward. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, and it's a privilege to be here on a beautiful night in the city of Holland. And with this opportunity, I'd like to call Sergeant Scott Weiss? Weiss or Weiss? Weiss, okay. My Dutch credibility might be at risk here for that. But Scott Weiss and Brad?
Lieutenant Van Huysen, why don't you come up too?
Yeah, gather up around here. I just want to make a start to recognize these fine gentlemen. I have an opportunity at beginning this year to take on the role as Judiciary and Public Safety Committee Chair of the Michigan State Senate. And it's been a really true privilege. And as we discuss even tomorrow morning, we'll be working on our police betterment bills, a bipartisan package. But in these bills, we've become very conscientious and reaching out to our law enforcement agencies and making sure that we, at the end of the day, we retain and train the best and the brightest. And with that, I believe we have one of the best and the brightest among us tonight. And that is our goal in Lansing, and I believe it's our goal here in the city of Holland and throughout the Ottawa County community. So with that, I just want to first shake your hand to be the best and the brightest in those years of service. Because it has been, it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year for everyone, but especially for those on the front lines in fire protection, law enforcement, because during COVID, you've stepped up to the plate, shown that leadership. And I'm sure you have many different stories to be told, and you'll be telling those stories to your children and grandchildren. But with that there, it's just my honor to have this tribute from the Michigan Senate, signed by Representative Brad Slaw and myself. And I'll just read it through here. Let it be known that it is a pleasure to extend our sincerest congratulations and appreciation to Sergeant Scott Weiss, the recipient of the Police Officer of the Year. Weiss, currently a patrol supervisor of the Holland Police Department. He has been with the Holland Police Department since 1990. Thank you for those years of service, which at point he was a cadet. Weiss has passion for his role. He graduated from Holland Christian in 1988 and furthered his education at Grand Valley State University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. In addition to his role as officer, Weiss has had many positions in the WEMAT detective, firearms instructor, and member of the Department of Special Enforcement teams. These roles are just one example of the many opportunities that Sergeant Weiss has gone above and beyond the call of duty. In special tribute, therefore, this document is signed and dedicated to Sergeant Weiss and his faithful service to this community. May it known from our deepest respect of his accomplishments and our best wishes for his continued success. Thank you, Sergeant. Representative, I shake a good hand of this.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate that.
Now, Prize Representative, want to gather in here for a good photo shot right there?
Let's put him in the middle then.
Oh, yes, that's right. You got to be in the middle. See, the representative is always much more intelligent than the senator. Thanks. Excellent. Thank you. Again, appreciate those years of service.
And I'd like to do a special tribute for Lieutenant Anthony Van Huysen. And I'm not as eloquent as Roger is. I'm only a representative. So let me just peel off some of the pieces out of here that I think are important. So let it be known that Anthony Van Huysen, Lieutenant Anthony Van Huysen, has been named the Firefighter of the Year by Holland Department of Public Safety in grateful recognition of outstanding service to the people of the entire community. Lieutenant Venhuizen began with the Holland Fire Department in 2011. In 2018, he was promoted to lieutenant and had a chance to continue to really because of his leadership and dedication, had a chance to show that and communicate that to the community. And so that was a recognition. When in the in-person fire safety education events were canceled in 2020 through the COVID-19 stuff, Lieutenant Venhuizen went above and beyond his normal duties and created a home fire safety video to share virtually with families and individuals throughout the community to continue to protect them. So through his dedicated efforts, the Holland Department of Public Safety, Fire Department, Lieutenant Venhuizen has consistently put into action the highest standards of unselfishness, integrity, and professionalism. He notably serves with compassion and a positive attitude, and is honorably one of the just a few firefighters throughout the country participating in the Managing Officer Program through the United States Fire Administration Fire Academy. The quality of, and you guys know this, the quality of a fire department has a significant impact on our community, any community. And regardless of whether the department is volunteer or a highly sophisticated urban department, we all rely on people like Lieutenant Venhuizen for the safety of our homes, businesses, and the lives of those we love. So in special tribute, therefore, this document is signed and dedicated to congratulate Lieutenant Venhuizen on being named as the Firefighter of the Year. And it's signed by the State Senator Roger Victory, State Senator Eric Nesbitt, State Representative Bradley Slaw, and State Representative Mary Whiteford. And with that, I'd love to present this to you.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Congratulations both to Lieutenant Venhuizen and to Sergeant Weiss. Thank you for your service to the community, and thank you also to Senator Victory and Representative Slaw on the great tributes and for honoring the service of these gentlemen. We really appreciate that. Next item on the agenda are our written petitions and communications. In addition to providing public comment here at our meetings, we also have created an email address for people to be able to provide communication to city council members. That is publiccomment@cityofholland.com. We collect those in the 2 weeks in between our regular meetings, and then our regular meetings, we accept those into the record. We do not read them out loud here at council meetings, but council members have reviewed them again as part of our packets. And I would entertain a motion to accept those written communications into the record.
So moved.
Moved by Hoekstra. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Byrd. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Reports from special committees, presentation by the Holland Youth Advisory Council, and the farewell to our class of 2021 scholars. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, we're very excited. It's a little bit different this year. For the veterans, you'll know that typically we have a lot of students in here, which is always fun. But we're doing a little bit different this year. Human Relations and International Relations Director Esther Fifowski is here, but I think that Diamante Balcazar is here, who, if you follow anything, this guy is pretty impressive young man. So we're going to hand it off to him, and he's going to make a presentation, and we're really thankful for your service for several years, Diamante.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Diamante Balcazar, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to come present to you guys tonight. Really appreciate it. And it is my privilege and honor to present to you the 2020-2021 academic year of HIAC, or the Holland Youth Advisory Council accomplishments. So first off, Core Council chose Isaiah Reynolds for the 2020 Youth Social Justice Award, and we also updated the HIAC bylaws. And as always, each year it's very hard to choose just one person for the Youth Social Justice Award. You know, we always have a lot of great candidates, but we really felt good picking Isaiah because of all the hard work he's done, especially with furthering social justice within the community. And then with the help from the city's IT department, we made a recruitment video.
Hello, my name is Sammy Fenema, and I am the chair of the Environmental Committee.
Diamante Balcazar. I'm a senior at Holland High.
Abby Mulder.
My name is Riley Sheff.
I'm Ethan Myers.
Sarah Brown. Eva Whiteman. I'm on the Parks and Recreation Committee for HIAC.
I'm a senior at Black River, and I serve on the Max Transit Committee.
Core Counsel, and as Vice Chair of the Social Services Committee.
In HIAC, you get the opportunity to bring your and your peers' perspectives to local issues, and you get to work alongside adults, city employees, and city council members.
I'd say one of the main things that got me involved in HIAC was probably knowing that it existed.
One of my favorite memories from HIAC was helping plan Holland's first ever international festival. We contacted performers and artists from various cultures in the area and got them all to perform in downtown.
Something I love about it is that I've been able to organize events like beach cleanups.
All of the memories that we've made with just laughs and smiles.
Something HIAC has taught me is to be more confident in public speaking. I have had opportunities to speak on adult boards and provide my input on topics that are unique to local government.
As part of social services, I've had the opportunity to do many things to help out our community. I've helped provide birthday gifts to kids in a transition shelter. I've put together food boxes for Community Action House.
If you're thinking about doing HIAC, anyone in high school can do it, and it's a great opportunity.
Overall, if you have the slightest inkling in local government, I totally suggest that you try out for HIAC and apply because it is an amazing experience.
Alrighty. And then moving on, the Social Services Committee sponsored a used book drive and donated over 100 books to the Jefferson Elementary School, which for me, I went to Jefferson, so it's really nice to see, the community giving back and just putting something together for all those kids, especially after the hard year we've had. And then they also donated, as you saw Sarah in the video talk about, they donated birthday gifts to children staying at the Resilient Emergency Shelter, and they also donated food to the Community Action House. So not only was it nice to give back to the younger, people in our community, but also to give back to just the community as a whole, older generations and stuff. So that was really nice to see. And then moving on, the Environmental Committee started and ended the year with beach cleanups at Holland State Park, which that was a very big thing. At least at Holland High, I noticed a lot of people participated, and that was just very good across all the schools, just seeing a big, union between everybody coming together to clean up the beach, especially with the summer coming along. Very nice. And then they also, the Environmental Committee also sponsored a recycled art contest with art made from recycled materials, which is pretty fun to see. Man, just the creativity in the community, just love to see it. And then moving on, the Recreation Committee began the year with a virtual pumpkin carving contest, which was fun. And then, as in-person meetings moved to Zoom, they looked for a project they could do from home and decorated supper sacks for the kids' food basket. And then as restrictions eased up in the spring, they hosted an Easter egg hunt at Moran Park, which that was very fun. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but I heard one of our core council members dressed up as the Easter Bunny, pictures were very lovely to see. And then HIAC students also served on these city boards. So we have Human Relations and Neighborhood Improvement, and then Teen Court and Sustainability, International Relations and Parks and Rec, and then Police Community Relations and Max Transit. And then these are the seniors of the Holland Youth Advisory Council this year. And as always, we thank the city and just everybody involved for all the support and the constant support that you guys give us every year. Even ever since I was a freshman, I could always feel just the love that you guys gave to us and how much you guys really pushed us to become better versions of ourselves, and couldn't be more appreciative of it. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Diamante. And I have been following what you are up to and what you're going to be up to. Very bright future. I don't know if the rest of the council knows or the public knows, but would you be willing to share where you're going to be next year?
Sure. So next fall, I plan on starting my next life chapter in the beautiful city of Cambridge, Massachusetts at Harvard University.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And when you finish at Harvard, we'd love to have you come back to Holland, Michigan.
I'd love to come back.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Next item on our agenda is item 12E 1.1, the 10th Street Snowmelt Improvement Special Assessment. We are adopting a resolution to schedule a public hearing of necessity for June 16, 2021. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Brian White is here tonight, and Brian just really wanted to be here one more night. No, not really, but we thought it'd be helpful with this project. It's actually one of those 3-step projects. If Brian Lynn was still on council, he'd probably have something to say about that, but this is a 3-step project. Tonight is actually the 2nd step in the project. We knew we had a shorter agenda and thought it might be a good idea for Brian just to give you a reminder on overall 10th Street, but most specifically this Snowmelt and the special assessments that we're proceeding with. So come on out, Brian. Yeah, that's fine. We're kind of returning to normal, so you can go back to your comfortable spot over there.
No mic, does that matter?
Oh.
Maybe you should come here. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sure we'd be able to hear you, but I'm not sure the public would be able to hear you without a microphone over there.
Okay, so good evening, Mayor Box, good evening, council members, and folks at home and folks here in the audience. Thanks for the opportunity. I wanted to just spend a few minutes of time talking about 10th Street and specifically the Snowmelt aspects that we have planned for 10th Street. It does involve an assessment for a portion of those improvements, but what I'd like to do is maybe just paint the overall picture of what we intend to do with 10th Street and then drill down to the assessment piece. I'll be brief. So with regard to 10th Street, and as most of you are familiar with, there's really 2 elements to the Snowmelt system that we have. One is what we refer to as transmission mains, and that is basically what we're talking about is the big pipes in the middle of the street that get the hot water from the power plant out to the periphery of the system. And then we also have what we refer to as distribution. The distribution piece of the Snowmelt system is basically everything from those mains out, and that includes manifolds that basically convert that, similar to a radiator in a car, divert that into the little PEX tubes that you see if we're under construction underneath all the bricks in the snow-melted sidewalks, and then also underneath portions of 8th Street too that are snow-melted. So with 10th Street, we've got a couple of key things that we have planned with regard to transmission. We intend to extend transmission down Columbia Avenue between 9th and 10th. And then we also plan to do some transmission improvements along 10th Street between Central and River Avenue. And we feel that not only does this set us up nicely for some improvements on 10th Street with regard to expansion of the distribution system, but also it sets us up for future projects, namely along Columbia Avenue and possibly along 13th Street, kind of in that same area. Again, that decision ultimately will be made in the future, but we'll at least set things up for the ability to have that option, should we choose to in the future to expand the system further south. So with regard to 10th Street and the distribution specifically, and this is where we'll get into the assessment piece of the project. And I think this is the assessment map, but this is probably a pretty good place to just work off of. The top diagram there represents the south side of 10th Street, and in blue there is some proposed snow melt improvements along the sidewalk on that south property, which I believe is 246 River Avenue. And that was actually the property owners there requested that we go ahead and include this into the project. We provided some preliminary information with them, and they said, you bet, we want to continue forward with this. So you'll note that there's a couple of pieces of that extend out from the public right-of-way into, alcoves and doorways and things like that. In the past, we typically incorporate those areas into our system, and then we request an easement to basically maintain those in the future. We try and keep those to small areas. The larger areas that are on private property, we do a little bit differently and set those up with dedicated manifolds and things like that. But none of the areas here we're talking about doing that. Everything's going to be public. Again, there'll be a few private locations that'll be covered with easements. In the second location there, that's basically that block between Central and River. There's a piece of existing snowmelt that goes along the old post office or the museum, and we're basically connecting that together on the north side between the improvements in Central Avenue. And then all along the south side there, along the park, is planned as well for the snowmelt. All of these areas are contiguous to the snowmelt system, so we're not proposing any gaps, so to speak. In fact, in this particular case, we're looking to close that gap. So, and then the final location, and again, this one came to us from Pillar Church. They requested to go ahead and do some work along their 10th Street frontage with snowmelt, and so we've reflected that in that lower view there. So. Again, it's a pretty simplistic diagram here. We do, when we provided the preliminary information at the last council meeting, we've pulled together some more detailed drawings that were in your packet and would propose to execute those provided we get approval at next council meeting after the hearing. We have had some initial communication with everyone. I will say there is, with regard to the condo building on the north side of 10th Street between Central and River, there's about 40 entities that comprise that building. We've worked through the property manager there, but we do anticipate that there's some folks there that probably are against incurring the assessment. I know there's some folks for it, but I do think there's a few that have voiced opposition to it, or at least concern about the assessment piece. So I want to be, clear with you all that it's not unanimous in this particular case. And again, with 40 different entities, I would think that that's somewhat to be expected. I will say that with regard to the actual assessment amounts, and I've included a draft assessment roll there within the packet, but basically we're talking about a construction assessment of $185. And so that basically represents each entity's construction assessment associated with that distribution in the front of that particular property. So, so tonight, what I'm requesting, and again, as Keith mentioned, this is step 2 in a 3-step process, requesting that council adopt the resolution, proceed with scheduling the public hearing of necessity for June 16th, the next meeting, and then hopefully following that hearing, we will be able to approve the proposed improvements and continue on with the snowmelt work that's part of 10th Street.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Brian? Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
What is the pleasure of council? Mr. Hoekstra.
Move we adopt the recommendation.
It's moved by Hoekstra. Is there support? Support by Byrd. Any discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Peters?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Arnshorst?
Yes.
Hoekstra?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Byrd? Yes. Mayor Box?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Next item, item 12E 6.1, gifts. Kathy.
The city manager's office is pleased to report the following gifts. Parks and Recreation, Holland and Bloom, 2021 Tulip Dig, $12,519. City Council Sunshine Fund, various donations, $120. It is recommended that these donations be accepted with appreciation, credited to the appropriate account, and an expression of gratitude be forwarded to said donors.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. What is the pleasure of council? Mr. Byrd.
Move we accept donations from donors with great appreciation.
Moved by Byrd. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Arnshorst. Any comments, any discussion? I just have one little point I want to make. I don't know if other council members were at the tulip dig or not, but that $12,519 from the tulip dig came in the form of $10 for each and every bucket of tulip bulbs that were pulled out of Window on the Waterfront, Centennial Park, or Windmill Island. So if my math is good, that is 510.9 buckets of tulip bulbs that came out of there. That's a whole lot of bulbs that are going to be spread all around the city. And as far away as I heard, from Indianapolis, Indiana, people drove up just to get the tulip bulbs. So great experience. It was a great day. And that's $12,000 that's going to go to help support the Holland and Bloom program. So very good. Any other comments?
Yeah, my
Mr.
wife
Burke.
went, so we have some tulips. We missed it last year, but it just goes again to show how big Holland is becoming, how big tulip time is, that people would come here after tulip time for something associated with tulip time. To me, that's again, I always say we live in a bubble, and that right there just gives credit to we live in a bubble and how great of a place we live.
Great. Thanks, Quincy. Anyone else? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, item number 13, communications from the city manager.
Yes, thank you. We do have a closed session yet, so I'll hit a handful of items relatively quickly. First, he gave me an idea. I'm wondering what council would think about, graduated rates for non-city residents and non-state residents for a bucket of tulips. Huh? No, just kidding. We're happy at that point to clear the tulips and sell those bulbs at that cost. More seriously, just so you know, we definitely have gone through and continue to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the things that we've been evaluating as the MIOSHA rules and the MDHHS rules change is just like we kind of stepped up some of our protocols at the beginning of the pandemic, we're kind of dialing some of those back. And just so everyone here knows, the public will see a difference starting at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. We are going to go ahead and allow the public beyond the city lobby, which we've had closed down, where we've had the public welcome here all the time, but we've had staff come and meet them in the lobby, and City Council Chambers has never been as busy with impromptu meetings, around the business clock. Staff is really looking forward to getting back to, we've had a lot of kind of changed roles with extra people coming down from different floors and working in the lobby. And we feel very comfortable making this change tomorrow. So we're excited about that. On your screens right now, that I'd want to call all of your attention to, and hopefully Rick back in the control room will bring this up on the TV screens for those at home too. I was just struck once again where when we put out the city e-newsletter earlier this week, just what a great job staff does in putting that together just graphically, but all of the fantastic information that's in the newsletter. And I know we always have the conversation, and council members challenge me sometimes and say, man, we need to do a better job of getting out the information. And we definitely take that as a challenge and talk about it all the time with our communications folks and our cable folks. But I really want to underscore too, we need people that are willing to do simple things, like sign up for the city e-newsletter, and then you will get this information consistently. And there's fantastic wealth of information in that e-newsletter. So I'm going to keep banging the drum that the information is there, but we do need people to, take it in, and in this case, sign up for the city e-newsletter. I could scroll through, and Cinca did a fantastic job, as she always does. She has just snippets of all of the things that are in the e-newsletter. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the Street Performer series we're really excited about, is going to get up and started on June 17. The summer concert series is going to get up and starting here soon, so keep a look for that. Bouse Pool opens here, opening weekend, June 5 and 6. The farmers market had a big day today. One of the things we were excited about at the farmers market today, weren't we, Matt? No fences. So the rules about numbers, for the first time in a long time, we didn't have the fences, everywhere. So just a lot of cautious but sure return to some normalcy. So it's really fun and exciting to see that. The last thing that I'll mention is I communicated this in my Friday communication to all of you and employees, but we are looking at next week that we'll have a study session. We are not going to have UDO for the next study session. Instead, we're looking at, I think it's June 23rd is where we're going to revisit that. And then the 5th, this is one of those 5th Wednesday months, which typically we look forward to, because often that means we get that 5th Wednesday off. And I would ask everyone actually just to hold on to that 5th Wednesday, because if you are wanting to do more study on the UDO, we'd want to reserve that 5th Wednesday for UDO. Next week, though, however, we will absolutely have a study session. And what I'm looking at is there might be upwards of 5 or 6 things. I think all of them are probably, maybe 15, 20, 25-minute items. So I think we can kind of crank through a lot of things. But I've been holding off on some, and I'm moving some up because I know that it might be a delay before we get back to them. So we'll have a full and lively session for you next week. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you very much. And I loved that comment, a cautious return toward normal. That feels good. That feels really good. Thank you. Next item is appointments and communications from the mayor. I do have a proclamation this evening in regard to June being LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Whereas the City of Holland cherishes the value and dignity of each person and appreciates the importance of equality and freedom. And whereas all are welcome in the City of Holland to live, work, and play, and every family in any shape deserves a place to call home where they are safe, happy, and supported by friends and neighbors. And whereas in passing City Ordinance 1784, the City of Holland provides protection of the rights of all persons against discrimination in employment, housing, public accommodations, or public services based on age, race, national origin, color, disability, education, familial status, sex, sexual orientation, gender expression, gender identity, height, marital status, religion, source of income, or weight. And whereas the 1969 Stonewall Uprising in New York City after LGBTQ plus and allied friends rose up against and fought against police harassment and discriminatory laws that have since been declared unconstitutional, led to the creation of Pride Month in June of 1970. And whereas we value the cultural, civic, and economic contributions of the LGBTQ plus community and advocate organizations like Out on the Lakeshore and the Holland Lakeshore PFLAG, our first lakeshore organization to support lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ plus people, their parents and families and allies. And whereas it is imperative that all people in our community, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their peers and community leaders. And whereas, despite being marginalized, LGBTQ plus people continue to celebrate authenticity, acceptance, and love, they continue to contribute to the life of the community. And now, therefore, I, Nathan Box, Mayor of the City of Holland, Michigan, and members of the Holland City Council proclaim the month of June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month. We urge residents to recognize the contributions made by members of the LGBTQ plus community and to actively promote the principles of equality, liberty, and justice for all, and encourage participation in community events to show support for the LGBTQ plus community during the month of June. given under my hand and the seal of the City of Holland this second day of June 2021, Mayor Nathan Box. Thank you. And that is all that I have this evening. Appointments, motions, and communications from council members. Anything from council this evening? Mr. Byrd.
I have a couple of things. So we're doing, or not doing, there's fireworks on June 14th, I think it was, June 14th? Was that what the day was for the fireworks?
Yeah, so
Anyways,
it's intended for a private celebration, but
okay.
obviously.
Anyways, I'm looking forward, I don't know about July 4th if we're having fireworks or not, but I am a very strong advocate for fireworks on the 4th of July this year. I just want to put that out there.
So I feel like I probably should address that right now. So the fireworks, and I think a lot of times that's misunderstood, the fireworks we participate with through the Macatawa Area Coordinating Council.
Oh, it's back.
So all of the area governments contribute towards that. The Coordinating Council and with Andy and with the fireworks contractor things change relatively quickly. And by time that all of the logistics, because there's like a barge and it goes in Lake Mac and the company that shoots them off, and of course they were not able to bring the fireworks to us on the weekend of the 4th. But plans are being put in place where we're expecting that MAC is going to announce that there will be another date in the summer where we basically replace it. And I know Andy and crew have some neat things in store to kind of make that a little bit of a celebration. So probably not going to make a lot of people really happy of being able to hit the 4th of July weekend, but there will be an announcement where it'll likely be another weekend. I think in August is what they're looking at.
All right, I can deal with that. Thank you very much. And then I wanted to tell a quick story. We had Sergeant Scott Weiss here. He's not here now, but really good to see him get an award. I have a little cousin. He's probably about 6, but he was 4 at the time. And his mom had issues with him calling 911 constantly. And he came over to the house. She told me about it. And he called 911 when he was at our house. So I put a call in to have an officer actually come to the house and talk to him and explain the importance of not calling 911 and the importance of being able to call 911 in an emergency. The officer that showed up was Sergeant Scott Weiss. He took the time to sit and talk with my little cousin, who was at the time 4 years old. And he sat and talked with him for close to 20 minutes. Put him in the car, let him play with the lights, answered all of his questions, and just help him understand best he could at the level of a 4-year-old. So as you guys know, I'm a big advocate for the police department, but when you have officers doing things like that, those are stories that you don't hear about, and those are the interpersonal communication skills that they have to be able to come down to the level of a child and engage them and make them feel important. So congratulations, Scott, and I expect him to continue to do great things in our community.
Great. Thank you, Quincy. Any other communications from council members? Yeah, Lynn.
I was going to tell a Scott Weiss story too. I was in the yard and I had just gotten a little puppy, a little Springer Spaniel, and he drove by and waved and then turned his car around, pulled into my driveway to get out and say hello to my little dog. And it didn't seem like it was such a big thing, but he just made such an effort to interact with me, and he doesn't know who I am, but he had Springer Spaniels and he wanted to come meet my little puppy, and I just thought that was the sweetest thing.
Anyone else with a Scott Weiss story? All right. Any other communications from council? All right, thank you. No first readings of ordinances this evening. Next, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session to review a written legal opinion with the city attorney.
So moved?
Moved by Hoekstra. Is there support? Support by Byrd. Before we take the vote on this, I do just want to let the members of the public know the only thing that we will be doing following the closed session is we'll be coming back into open session. We'll be entertaining a motion to adjourn and adjourning the meeting, so there will not be any business that will be done after we have this closed session. So with that, do we need a roll call vote on this? Yep, roll call. Kathy, would you please call the roll? Thank you.
Garcia,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Peters. Yes. Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And we'll wait for the video to be done, and then we'll get the members of the audience headed home, and then we will enter closed session. And if anyone needs to take a break while